Her hands trembled as she magnified the X-ray. The tiny metallic dots shouldn't be there, not in Emma's teeth. Not in any child's mouth. Isabelle Thornton's heart pounded as the horrifying truth clicked into place. These weren't filling anomalies, they were tracking devices, implanted in children who trusted them. When the little girl had fled the office in tears earlier that day, it wasn't just fear of the dentist, it was something much darker, and Isabelle was the only one who had noticed. Before we dive into this heartbreaking story, I'm curious, where are you watching from right now, and what time is it in your corner of the world? Drop a comment below and let me know. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button to join our community where we bring hidden stories into the light. Isabelle Thornton had always been more comfortable with teeth than with people. As a dental hygienist at Bright Smile Family Dental, she found peace in the precision of her work, the methodical cleaning, the perfect angles for bite-wing X-rays, the gentle way she could make even the most anxious child feel safe in her chair. "You have such a way with the little ones," Dr. James Maxwell would say, his hand briefly touching her shoulder in that way that made her want to shrink away. "That's why I hired you." Dr. Maxwell's practice was the crown jewel of Oakwood Heights, a wealthy suburb where parents spared no expense on their children's healthcare. The office gleamed with state-of-the-art equipment, aquarium walls, and ceiling televisions that played cartoons during procedures. Parents loved Dr. Maxwell, with his salt and pepper hair, charity golf tournaments, and gentle chairside manner. But something about his eyes never matched his smile. Isabelle had noticed this from her first day, but she'd buried the thought. Jobs like this, in prestigious practices with excellent benefits, weren't easy to come by for someone as shy as herself. "You're overthinking again," she whispered to herself each morning in the staff bathroom mirror. "Stop imagining problems." Isabelle lived alone in a small apartment with her cat, Molly. Her evenings were quiet, herbal tea, mystery novels, and early bedtimes. Her colleagues invited her out occasionally, but large groups made her anxiety spike. She'd declined so many times that the invitations had mostly stopped coming. What defined Isabelle wasn't her social life but her attention to detail. Nothing escaped her notice, not a hairline fracture on a molar, not the slight wince when a patient felt pain but tried to hide it, not the patterns in scheduling that seemed to shift without explanation. "You're being paranoid," she told herself whenever she noticed Dr. Maxwell's special interest in certain patients, mostly children from the poorer side of town, often with distracted parents who seemed overwhelmed by life. She'd been working at Bright Smile for 18 months when things began to change. First, it was the new equipment that only Dr. Maxwell was authorized to use. Then the executive treatment rooms that were off-limits to regular staff. Then the appointments that didn't appear in the main scheduling system. "It's just for our VIP patients, Sarah Chen," the office manager had explained curtly when Isabelle had asked. "Dr. Maxwell handles those personally." Isabelle had nodded and returned to her work. She needed this job, needed the stability, needed to believe that the world could be safe and predictable, unlike her childhood in the foster system where danger had lurked in so many unexpected places. But the human mind can only ignore warning signs for so long before the truth demands to be seen. The Tuesday morning Emma Pierce ran from the office began like any other. Isabelle had prepped room 3, laid out the instruments for a routine filling, and welcomed the quiet 10-year-old with the butterfly beret in her brown ponytail. "Remember me? I'm Isabelle. I took your X-rays last week," she said, helping Emma settle into the chair. "Dr. Maxwell will be in soon for your filling." Emma nodded, eyes downcast. Her mother had dropped her off alone, something about a work emergency and being back in an hour. It wasn't ideal, but not uncommon either. "Are you feeling okay today?" Isabelle asked, noticing Emma's unusual stillness. "My stomach hurts," Emma whispered. "Just nervous?" "That's normal." Isabelle adjusted the chair. "I'll be right here the whole time." But Dr. Maxwell shook his head when he entered. "Thanks, Isabelle. I've got this one. Why don't you help Sarah with filing?" Something in his tone brooked no argument. "This happens sometimes." Dr. Maxwell, taking over completely. But something about Emma's fearful eyes made Isabelle hesitate. "I promised Emma I'd stay," she said, surprising herself with her boldness. Dr. Maxwell's smile didn't reach his eyes. "Emma and I will be just fine. This is a special procedure. Very routine, but I prefer to handle it personally." Isabelle reluctantly left, glancing back to see Emma's fingers gripping the armrest so tightly her knuckles had turned white. 20 minutes later, the waiting room erupted in gasps. As the glass doors burst open, Emma ran through them at full speed. One hand pressed to her cheek, tears streaming down her face. Behind her, Dr. Maxwell emerged from the hallway, still in his mask, looking shocked. "Emma!" he called, his voice carrying a sharpness Isabelle had never heard before. "Emma, come back." But the child was already gone, dashing across the parking lot toward the busy street. "What happened?" Sarah demanded, already on the phone. "Just panicked during the procedure," Dr. Maxwell said smoothly, regaining his composure. "Call her mother immediately." In the chaos that followed, Isabelle slipped back to room 3. Something felt wrong. The instruments were already cleaned away, the chair disinfected, as if someone had hurriedly erased all evidence of what had occurred. That night, as Isabelle finished uploading the day's x-rays into patient files, she opened Emma's recent scans. Standard bite wings, nothing unusual except. She zoomed in on the back molars where Dr. Maxwell had placed the filling. There, nestled within the dental work, was a tiny metallic object that didn't belong. "That's not dental material," she whispered, comparing it to textbook images of fillings. Her phone buzzed with a text from Sarah. "Dr. M says Emma's fine. Mother found her. No need to document today's incident in the system." Isabelle stared at the message, then back at the strange anomaly in Emma's tooth. Her stomach knotted as a terrible question formed in her mind. What had Dr. Maxwell really put in that child's mouth? The question haunted Isabelle through a sleepless night. By morning she had convinced herself she was overreacting. Dental materials sometimes appeared strange on x-rays. There were experimental composites, new bonding techniques. Dr. Maxwell was known for being innovative. But the image of Emma's tear-streaked face wouldn't leave her. "I'm being ridiculous," she muttered, pouring coffee into her travel mug. "But what if I'm not?" At work, Isabelle moved through her morning appointments on autopilot. During her lunch break, instead of eating in the break room, she slipped into the records office and began pulling files of patients Dr. Maxwell had treated personally over the past 6 months. Most showed nothing unusual, but then she found another, a 7-year-old boy named Luis, with the same strange metallic dot in his molar after a filling. Then another, 12-year-old Zoe, and another, 8-year-old Tyler. "What are you doing?" Sarah's voice made Isabelle jump. The files scattered across the desk. "I was just reviewing some cases for learning purposes." Isabelle's face burned. She'd never been good at lying. Sarah's eyes narrowed as she took in the open filing cabinet. "Those are Dr. Maxwell's special cases." "Special how?" Isabelle asked, trying to keep her voice steady. For a moment something flickered across Sarah's face. Something that might have been fear. Then her professional mask slipped back into place. "You know Dr. Maxwell is particular about his filing systems. Please return everything exactly as you found it." After Sarah left, Isabelle quickly took photos of the abnormal x-rays with her phone before carefully replacing the files. Her hands were shaking so badly she nearly dropped them. Back at her apartment that evening, Isabelle spread the photos across her kitchen table. The pattern was undeniable. 12 children, all between ages 7 and 12, all with the same foreign object embedded in their dental work. She opened her laptop and typed metal objects in dental fillings. Hours of research later, her eyes burned from staring at the screen, but she had found nothing explaining what she was seeing. She was about to give up when she stumbled across an article about RFID technology. Radio frequency identification. Tiny chips used to track products, pets, and sometimes even people. "It can't be," she whispered, comparing the images. But the size, shape, and density matched perfectly. The realization made her physically ill. She barely made it to the bathroom before emptying her stomach. When she returned to her laptop, she began searching for the children's names on social media, in local news, anything to see if they were okay. What she found chilled her further. 3 of the children's families had moved away suddenly after their dental procedures. 2 others had supposedly transferred to private schools, but the schools had no record of them. Isabelle paced her small living room, Molly watching her with concerned yellow eyes. She needed to tell someone, but who? If she was wrong, she'd destroy Dr. Maxwell's reputation and lose her job. If she was right, her phone rang, startling her so badly she dropped it. Unknown number. "Hello?" she answered, heart pounding. "Is this Isabelle Thornton?" A man's voice, unfamiliar. "Yes, who's this?" "My name is Michael Rivera. I'm with Child Protective Services. I'm calling about Emma Pierce." Isabelle's knees went weak. "Is she okay?" "That's what we're trying to determine. Emma's mother reported some concerning behavior after her dental appointment yesterday. Emma won't stop saying something is inside her tooth and that the dentist is bad. Given your position as the hygienist who was present, I was hoping you could provide some context." Isabelle gripped the phone tighter. I actually wasn't present for the procedure. Dr. Maxwell asked me to leave. Silence on the other end. Then, that's interesting because Emma specifically mentioned your name. Said you were nice and that she wanted to tell you something. A tear slid down Isabelle's cheek. I want to help Emma. I think something very wrong is happening at Bright Smile. Can you elaborate? The man's voice sharpened. Isabelle took a deep breath. This was the moment. Step forward or step back. Find the courage to speak or remain silent while children disappeared. I found evidence that Dr. Maxwell is putting tracking devices in children's teeth during routine procedures, and the children who receive them often disappear shortly after. The silence that followed seemed endless. Ms. Thornton, that's an extremely serious accusation. Do you have any proof? Yes, she said, her voice steadying as resolve crystallized within her. I have the X-rays, and I'm not going to stop until I find out what's happening to these children. Agent Michael Rivera wasn't with Child Protective Services. When Isabelle met him the next morning at a coffee shop 3 towns over, he showed her his FBI badge. Human Trafficking Task Force, he explained, his dark eyes studying her face. Your call got redirected to me because of some keywords. Isabelle felt dizzy. So you believe me? I believe something might be happening, he said carefully. But RAD implants in children's teeth. That's extreme. She slid her phone across the table, showing him the images. These are from 12 different children in the past 6 months, all from Dr. Maxwell's special procedures. Rivera examined them, face grim. And you've confirmed these children are missing? Not officially missing, Isabelle clarified. Their families moved suddenly or transferred schools. But I can't find current information on any of them. That's concerning but not definitive. Rivera sighed. We need more evidence before we can move. Dental X-rays with unusual artifacts won't get us a warrant. So you want me to go back to work like nothing's wrong? Isabelle's voice rose. While more children get... She couldn't finish the sentence. I want you to be our eyes inside, Rivera said. Document everything, but don't take risks. These operations, if that's what we're dealing with, are dangerous. The people running them are ruthless. Isabelle returned to Bright Smile the next day with a hidden audio recorder in her purse, and Rivera's number on speed dial. The ordinary routine of the office felt surreal now. The cheery waiting room a facade hiding something monstrous. Morning, Isabelle. Dr. Maxwell greeted her with his perfect smile. Everything all right? You look tired. Just didn't sleep well, she managed, avoiding his eyes. Well, perk up. We have that charity event for underprivileged kids on Thursday. Free checkups. I'll need your help with the screenings. Isabelle nodded, her skin crawling. The charity events were how Dr. Maxwell found many of his special cases. Children from struggling families, often with overworked or absent parents. Over the next week, Isabelle catalogued every suspicious detail. The locked cabinet in Dr. Maxwell's office. The phone calls he took in the hallway, speaking too quietly to overhear. The list of patients whose records were kept separate from the main system. She discovered the back entrance that certain patients used, bypassing the main waiting room. She noted how these appointments always happened when most staff had left for the day. Most disturbing was the pattern she uncovered. Children who received the implants had subsequent appointments exactly 3 weeks later. After that second appointment, they disappeared. It's like he's tagging them, then retrieving them, she told Rivera during their third clandestine meeting. The second appointment is always marked with a red dot in his private calendar. Rivera looked grim. We've been investigating trafficking networks with medical fronts before, but usually it's plastic surgery clinics, not pediatric dentistry. I found something else, Isabelle said, sliding a paper across the table. Dr. Maxwell hosts monthly VIP gatherings at his home. Look at the dates. Rivera's eyes widened. The day after the red dot appointments. Exactly, and I overheard Sarah saying something about merchandise being ready for viewing before the last one. This helps, but we need something definitively linking Maxwell to trafficking, Rivera said. Has he mentioned these parties to you? No, but I know where he keeps the guest list. I could. Absolutely not. Rivera cut her off. Do not go searching through his office. These people won't hesitate to eliminate threats. But as Isabelle drove home, her resolve hardened. Another child, a quiet 9-year-old named Mia, had received an implant yesterday. Her red dot appointment was in less than 3 weeks. The next gathering at Maxwell's home would follow. The clock was ticking. At work the next day, Isabelle noticed Dr. Maxwell watching her more closely, his eyes following her movements. Had she given herself away somehow? Beautiful work on those impressions, Isabelle, he said, examining the molds she'd prepared. Such attention to detail. Nothing escapes your notice, does it? Her blood ran cold at his tone. Just doing my job. Speaking of which, he continued, I'm considering expanding our team. Would you be interested in assisting with my private patients? A pay increase would be substantial. Was this a trap or an opportunity? Isabelle forced a smile. I'd be honored. Excellent. Why don't you come to my home this weekend? I'm hosting a small gathering. It would be a good opportunity to meet some influential people in our field. Isabelle's heart hammered against her ribs. This weekend? Saturday, 8 p.m. Formal attire. He handed her a card with his address. Don't disappoint me. After he left, Sarah appeared at her side. He invited you to the house. Her voice was tight with an emotion. Isabelle couldn't identify. Yes. Is that unusual? Sarah's eyes darted around the empty break room before she whispered, Be careful, Isabelle. The last hygienist who got involved with the private practice disappeared 6 months ago. Before Isabelle could respond, Sarah hurried away, leaving her with a new piece of the horrifying puzzle. That night, Isabelle tried calling Rivera, but he didn't answer. She paced her apartment, panic rising. She knew going to Maxwell's home was dangerous, but it might be her only chance to gather concrete evidence. Her decision crystallized when she opened her work email and found a message from the system. A reminder of Mia's follow-up appointment in 17 days. Below it, automatically generated, was the child's file photo. Dark eyes, shy smile, trust written across her innocent face. I won't let them take you, Isabelle whispered to the image. The next morning she arrived at work to find police cars surrounding the building. Her heart stopped until she realized they weren't there for the trafficking investigation. A break-in had occurred overnight. The target, Dr. Maxwell's private files. Everything's gone, Dr. Maxwell raged, pacing the conference room where the staff had gathered. Years of research, patient records, all stolen. His eyes locked with Isabelle's for a moment too long. We'll need to reschedule all appointments while we sort this out. Sarah will call patients. Everyone else take the day off. As Isabelle walked to her car, a hand grabbed her arm, pulling her between two vehicles. She nearly screamed until she recognized Agent Rivera. Did you break in? She hissed. No. And that's the problem, he said urgently. Someone else is involved. The timing is too convenient. What do you mean? Maxwell moved everything last night, all the evidence. He knows someone's onto him. Isabelle's stomach dropped. He invited me to his house this weekend. Rivera's face hardened. You're not going. But Mia, listen to me. Isabelle, he's accelerating his timeline. The break-in was staged to explain the missing records. He's cleaning house. A terrible realization dawned on her. The children with appointments this month could be moved immediately. Rivera nodded grimly. We're running out of time. Back at her apartment, Isabelle's hands shook as she enlarged the images of every child's X-ray on her laptop. The RFID tags were identical in size and placement. Mass-produced. This wasn't the work of one deranged dentist. This was organized, systematic. Her phone buzzed with a text from Sarah, meeting tomorrow morning. Maxwell wants to discuss restructuring. Bring your ID badge. Another message followed immediately. Do not come to the office tomorrow. Isabelle stared at the contradictory messages, realization dawning. Sarah was trying to warn her. She tried calling Rivera again but got voicemail. Time was running out. Children were in danger. And somehow she had become the only person positioned to save them. With shaking hands she opened her closet and pulled out the one formal dress she owned. If Maxwell wanted her at his gathering, she would be there, but not as the shy hygienist he thought he knew. The morning after the break-in, Isabelle didn't go to the office. Instead, she sat in her car across the street, watching as staff arrived for the emergency meeting. Dr. Maxwell greeted everyone at the door, checking IDs, except he wasn't just looking at badges. He was scanning them with a handheld device. Her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Smart girl, staying away. He's scanning for something. Not safe for you now, Sarah. It had to be. Isabelle drove to the public library, where she spent hours researching RFID technology. What she discovered made perfect, horrifying sense. The tags weren't just for tracking, they were part of an inventory system. Each tag emitted a unique identifier when scanned by the right equipment. Dr. Maxwell wasn't just marking children, he was cataloging them. She tried Rivera again, this time leaving a detailed message explaining her theory and her plan to attend Maxwell's gathering. I know it's dangerous, but I can wear a wire. Get proof. Please call me back. As she hung up, a news alert popped up on her phone. Local FBI agent found unconscious in home invasion. The article showed Rivera's photo. He'd been found severely beaten in his apartment. The attackers had taken his phone, badge, and laptop. Isabelle's hands shook so badly she dropped her phone. They knew. Somehow they knew Rivera was investigating. Which meant they might know about her too. She drove home on autopilot, mind racing through options that all seemed impossible. As she parked outside her apartment building, she noticed a black SUV with tinted windows across the street. It hadn't been there this morning. Instead of going inside, she drove to a motel on the edge of town and paid cash for a room. There she emptied her purse onto the bed. Her phone, which she turned off and removed the battery. Her wallet, her keys, and the card with Maxwell's address. The gathering was tomorrow night. If she attended, she might be walking into a trap. If she didn't, those children would be lost forever. A knock at the door made her freeze. Had they found her already? Housekeeping, called a female voice. Come back later, Isabelle answered, heart pounding. As footsteps retreated, Isabelle's gaze landed on the motel's ancient desktop computer in the corner. They might be tracking her phone, but this... 20 minutes later, she had configured a secure email account and sent an anonymous tip to every news outlet and law enforcement agency in the state. The subject line, children being trafficked through Bright Smile dental practice. She attached photos of the x-rays, the appointment patterns, and everything else she'd gathered. She knew it might not be enough for immediate action, but it created a record, evidence that couldn't be erased. That night she barely slept, jumping at every sound outside her room. By morning she'd made her decision. She would attend Maxwell's gathering, not as a frightened hygienist, but as someone with her own agenda. She spent the day preparing. At a thrift store she found an expensive-looking cocktail dress and heels. At an electronics store she purchased a small voice recorder that looked like a pendant. By 7:30 p.m. Saturday, Isabelle Thornton had transformed herself. Gone was the shy dental hygienist with hunched shoulders. In the mirror stood a woman with straightened spine, carefully applied makeup, and eyes hardened with purpose. For Emma, she whispered to her reflection. For Mia. For all of them. Maxwell's home was a modernist mansion overlooking the city. All glass steel and perfectly manicured grounds. Luxury cars lined the circular driveway. Security guards checked IDs at the gate. Isabelle's mouth went dry. She hadn't considered this obstacle, but as she pulled up she saw Sarah Chen arguing with one of the guards. Perfect distraction. Isabelle parked her car down the street and approached on foot, slipping past the guards while they dealt with Sarah. She blended with a group of late-arriving guests entering through the main doors. Inside, crystal chandeliers illuminated a gathering of about 30 people, mostly men in expensive suits, with a few elegantly dressed women. Waiters circulated with champagne and hors d'oeuvre. Classical music played softly. It looked like any upscale fundraiser, except for the subtle security cameras monitoring every corner and the guards positioned at each exit. Isabelle accepted a champagne flute and moved through the crowd, recording device active beneath her necklace. She caught fragments of conversation, investment opportunities, exclusive merchandise, special orders. Isabelle. Dr. Maxwell's voice froze her in place. You made it after all. She turned, forcing a smile. I wouldn't miss it. His eyes narrowed slightly. I was concerned when you missed our meeting yesterday. Food poisoning, she lied. I was terribly ill. How unfortunate, he said, not believing her for a second. Well, you're here now. Let me introduce you to some associates who might be interested in your expertise. He led her deeper into the house, past the main gathering, toward a hallway guarded by a man with an unmistakable bulge under his jacket. A gun. Where are we going? She asked, fighting to keep her voice steady. To the real party, Maxwell replied, his hand firmly gripping her elbow. You wanted to be part of my private practice, didn't you? Time to see what that really means. They stopped at a doorway where another guard checked them with a handheld scanner. The same type Maxwell had used at the office. It beeped softly when passed over Maxwell's wrist. An RFID chip. Isabelle realized. The guards had them too. Her mind raced. If they scanned her and found no chip, they'd know she didn't belong. But the scanner never touched her. Maxwell waved it away. She's with me. New recruit. The guard nodded and opened the door, revealing a staircase leading down. After you, Maxwell said, his smile now predatory. With no choice but to continue, Isabelle descended into the basement, a space transformed into what could only be described as a showroom. Glass walls separated the area into small chambers, and behind those walls, children sat on display beds, sedated but conscious, dressed in matching white clothes. Isabelle stopped breathing. Among them was Mia, her dark eyes glazed and distant. "Beautiful merchandise, isn't it?" Maxwell whispered, his mouth close to her ear. "Each one tracked and traceable anywhere in the world. We guarantee delivery." Isabelle fought the urge to vomit, to scream, to run. Instead, she forced herself to nod. "Impressive operation." "The question is," Maxwell said, turning her to face him, his fingers digging into her shoulders. "What exactly are you doing here, Isabelle? Because I know it's not what you're pretending." "I don't understand," Isabelle stammered, fighting to maintain her facade as Maxwell's fingers dug deeper into her shoulders. "Don't insult me," he hissed, his charming mask completely gone. "The questions you've been asking. The files you accessed. Did you think I wouldn't notice?" Behind them, a small group of well-dressed men and women moved between the glass chambers, examining the children like products in a store window. Isabelle forced herself to focus on Maxwell, though every instinct screamed for her to help those children. "I was curious," she said, manufacturing a smile, "about the business opportunity. The money. I have debts." Maxwell studied her face, searching for lies. An interesting change of heart for someone who's been so rule-abiding. "Money changes priorities." Isabelle shrugged, channeling a coldness she didn't feel. "And I notice things, like how certain patients never return for follow-ups. How certain procedures aren't in our system. I'm observant, Dr. Maxwell. Isn't that why you hired me?" A calculating look crossed his face. "Perhaps I underestimated you." "Most people do." She managed to step away from his grip, pretending to examine the nearest chamber where a boy of about 8 stared vacantly at the ceiling. "How does it work?" "The tracking." Maxwell's pride in his system overcame his suspicion. "The RFID chips activate when scanned. Undetectable in normal circumstances, but our buyers have the equipment to locate their purchases anywhere in the world." "Ingenious," she forced herself to say, bile rising in her throat. "And the second appointment? Final preparations. Dosing begins to make them compliant for transition." "Transition?" "To their new owners," Maxwell said impatiently. "Some go overseas, some stay with local collectors. Depends on their unique attributes." A woman in a red dress approached them. "James, is this new merchandise?" She examined Isabelle like she was appraising livestock. "No, Elaine, potential staff," Maxwell replied smoothly. "Excuse us." He steered Isabelle toward a private office adjoining the showroom. Once inside, his demeanor changed again. "Your performance is unconvincing," he said coldly. "Sarah warned me about you. Said you were asking questions, looking at files that weren't your concern." Isabelle's heart sank. Sarah had betrayed her after all. "Did you really think I wouldn't have someone watching you?" Maxwell continued, circling her like a predator. "Every staff member is monitored, especially those who work closely with the product." "Those are children," Isabelle said, unable to maintain the pretense any longer. "Not products." Maxwell smiled. "There's the real Isabelle. The bleeding heart. Tell me, who have you talked to?" "That FBI agent who's currently in intensive care." Horror washed over her. Rivera wasn't just injured, he was fighting for his life. "No one will find you here," Maxwell continued. "This room is soundproofed. The entire basement is necessary for the merchandise who sometimes become vocal before the final sedation." Isabelle glanced desperately around the office. No windows. One door, now blocked by Maxwell. On his desk sat a computer monitor showing camera feeds from throughout the house, including the driveway where more cars were arriving. "I could use someone with your skills, Isabelle. Your attention to detail. Your gentle way with children." Maxwell leaned against his desk. "Join us, and the financial rewards are beyond anything you've imagined." "Refuse?" He shrugged. "Well, there's always demand for someone with your features." In that moment, Isabelle understood completely she was either going to become his accomplice or his merchandise. There was no third option where she walked away. "How many?" she asked, buying time as her mind raced for escape routes. "How many children have you taken?" 87 since I opened Bright Smile," he said, a note of pride in his voice. "A small operation compared to some networks, but quality over quantity is our model." Isabelle's hand slipped into her purse, fingers closing around the small canister she'd brought as a last resort. "And the parents? Most are too busy, too poor, or too addicted to notice. Those who ask questions have accidents, gas leaks, car failures. Tragic, really." As he spoke, movement on one of the security monitors caught Isabelle's eye. Sarah Chen was at the main entrance again, arguing with the guards. But this time, she wasn't alone. Behind her car, barely visible in the darkness, were the shapes of police vehicles, lights off. Maxwell followed her gaze and cursed. "Seems we have an uninvited guest. Excuse me while I handle this." Disruption. As he moved to leave, Isabelle made her decision. She wouldn't wait for rescue that might come too late. "Dr. Maxwell," she called, making him turn back toward her. "One more question." When he faced her, she sprayed the canister directly into his eyes. Pepper spray that sent him crashing backward, howling in pain. Isabelle lunged past him through the door, slamming it shut behind her. She had minutes at most before the guards came looking for their boss. And she had a room full of children to save. The showroom floor was empty now. All the buyers had moved to the main level for drinks and negotiations, leaving the children alone behind their glass walls. Isabelle could hear Maxwell's muffled screams from the office, but the soundproofing he'd bragged about was working against him now. She needed to act fast. Each second brought the risk of discovery. Isabelle rushed to the nearest chamber where Mia lay motionless. The door had an electronic keypad lock. She tried the handle anyway, desperate and knowing it was futile. "Think," she whispered to herself. "Think like Maxwell." The man was methodical, arrogant. He'd want access to his merchandise at all times, which meant Isabelle ran back to the office door, pressing her ear against it. Maxwell was still inside, still shouting. She took a deep breath and opened it just enough to slip her arm through. Maxwell lunged for her, but his vision was compromised from the spray. She grabbed his lanyard with its security badge and yanked it free, slamming the door shut again. Heart pounding, she returned to Mia's chamber and swiped the badge over the reader. The lock clicked open. "Mia," she whispered, rushing to the child's side. "Mia, it's Isabelle from the dentist's office. I'm going to get you out of here." The girl's pupils were dilated, her movements sluggish from whatever drugs they'd given her. "Hurts," she mumbled. "My mouth hurts." "I know, sweetheart. We're going to fix that." Isabelle helped her sit up. "Can you walk if I help you?" Mia nodded slowly. "I need you to be very brave," Isabelle said, guiding her to the door. "We need to help the other children too." One by one, Isabelle unlocked the chambers, gathering the children. 12 in total, ages 6 to 13, all in various states of sedation. Some could barely stand. One small boy couldn't walk at all, forcing Isabelle to carry him while guiding the others. "Stay together," she instructed as they huddled near the stairs. "We need to get upstairs and find a way out." But the staircase that was their only exit presented an impossible challenge. Guards would be at the top. The children were drugged, disoriented, and any moment someone would come looking for Maxwell. For a terrible moment, Isabelle felt paralyzed by indecision. Then she heard Emma's voice in her head. "The dentist is bad." That small, frightened girl had been brave enough to run. Isabelle needed to be brave. She gathered the children close. "Listen to me. When we go up these stairs, there will be bad people who want to stop us. We need to stay together and run as fast as we can. The police are outside. We just need to reach them." "I'm scared," whispered Mia, clinging to Isabelle's dress. "Me too," Isabelle admitted. "But being brave doesn't mean you're not scared. It means you do what's right even when you're terrified." As she spoke these words, something shifted inside Isabelle. The trembling in her hands stilled, her vision cleared. All her life she'd been the quiet one, the invisible one, the one who avoided conflict and kept her head down. But not tonight. Tonight, she would be the one who roared. She activated the recording pendant, ensuring it captured everything. Then she lifted the smallest boy into her arms and took Mia's hand. "Stay close," she told the others. "Then I say run, we all run together." They ascended the stairs slowly, the children supporting each other. Through the door, Isabelle could hear raised voices. Sarah arguing with someone, creating a distraction at the front of the house. Isabelle pressed her ear to the door at the top of the stairs. Beyond it was the hallway that led to the main gathering. If they could make it through the crowd to the front entrance where Sarah was causing a scene. She checked each child's face. Despite their drugged state, determination had replaced vacancy in their eyes. These children had endured medical violation, drugging, and the terror of captivity. They deserved freedom. They deserved justice. And Isabelle was done being afraid. "Ready?" she asked them. 12 pairs of eyes stared back at her. "Ready," Mia whispered. Isabelle took a deep breath and pushed open the door. The hallway was empty. A stroke of luck Isabelle hadn't dared hope for. The commotion Sarah was creating at the front entrance had drawn the security guards away from their posts. In the distance, she could hear raised voices, glass breaking. "Now," Isabelle whispered, ushering the children into the hallway. "Stay together." They moved as a huddle, the stronger children helping the weaker ones. Isabelle led them toward the main gathering area, heart hammering so loudly she was certain everyone could hear it. As they reached the edge of the grand room, she froze. Dozens of wealthy guests milled about, champagne flutes in hand, while waitstaff circulated with hors d'oeuvre. The front door lay across this gauntlet of people who saw these children as merchandise. "We can't go through there," whispered one of the older girls. Isabelle scanned the room desperately. There had to be another way out. A service entrance, a side door. Her eyes landed on a waiter disappearing through a swinging door on the far side of the room. The kitchen. And kitchens always had back exits. "Change of plans," she murmured. "Follow me, stay close to the wall." They skirted the edge of the party, Isabelle positioning herself between the children and the guests. A few people glanced their way, but in the dimmed lighting and with attention focused on the disturbance at the front door, they managed to remain relatively unnoticed. Until a woman in a silver dress stepped directly into their path. "What is this?" she demanded, her eyes narrowing as she took in the children in their matching white clothes. "Who authorized moving the merchandise?" Isabelle stepped forward, summoning authority into her voice. "Dr. Maxwell's orders. Security breach at the front. We're moving them to the secondary location." The woman frowned. "I wasn't informed." "Maybe you weren't on the need-to-know list," Isabelle said coldly. "Now move aside, unless you want to explain to Dr. Maxwell why his merchandise was compromised." It was a gamble, but it worked. The woman hesitated, then stepped aside. They continued their careful journey across the room, almost reaching the kitchen door when a shout erupted from the direction of Maxwell's office. "The merchandise is gone. Lock down the house." Chaos erupted. Guests began shouting questions. Security guards materialized from doorways, hands moving inside jackets toward concealed weapons. "Run," Isabelle commanded, abandoning subtlety. "Kitchen, now." They sprinted across the remaining space, bursting through the swinging doors into a gleaming industrial kitchen where startled staff stared at them in shock. "Where's the back door?" Isabelle demanded. A young dishwasher pointed wordlessly to a metal door at the rear. Behind them, the kitchen doors crashed open as security guards poured in. "Stop them! Go!" Isabelle pushed the children toward the exit as she turned to face the approaching men. She had no weapon, no plan, just the desperate need to buy the children a few more seconds. The first guard reached for her. Isabelle grabbed a pot of boiling water from the stove and flung it at him. His screams filled the kitchen as scalding liquid hit his face and chest. The second guard hesitated just long enough for Isabelle to seize a fire extinguisher from the wall. She didn't aim for him but for the floor between them, creating a cloud of white powder that filled the air. Through the chaos, she backed toward the exit, where the last of the children were escaping. As she pushed through the door into the cool night air, she collided with a solid figure. "FBI, don't move." For a wild moment, Isabelle thought she was being arrested, until she recognized Agent Rivera, his face bruised but very much alive, gun drawn and pointed past her at the pursuing guards. "The children," she gasped. "Being secured," he assured her. Sarah helped her set up a perimeter. "Get behind me." The night air filled with shouts as federal agents swarmed the property. Isabelle found herself hustled toward an ambulance where paramedics were attending to the children. Mia spotted her and broke away from the EMT checking her, running to throw her arms around Isabelle's waist. "You came back for us," she sobbed. Isabelle knelt, holding the girl tightly. "I promised I wouldn't let them take you." Over Mia's shoulder, Isabelle watched as agents led handcuffed guests from the house, men and women in evening wear, now criminals caught in a human trafficking operation. She felt numb, the adrenaline that had carried her through the rescue now draining away. "Isabelle." Sarah Chen pushed through the crowd of law enforcement, her face tear-streaked but determined. "You did it. You actually did it. You helped," Isabelle said, rising to face the woman she'd thought had betrayed her. "You created the distraction." Sarah nodded. "I've been collecting evidence for months, but I was too afraid to act alone. When you started asking questions, I thought maybe. But then Maxwell got suspicious of both of us. I had to pretend to report you while I contacted the FBI. You saved us," Isabelle said simply. "No," Sarah shook her head. "You saved everyone." A commotion near the house drew their attention. Dr. Maxwell was being led out in handcuffs, his face still red and swollen from the pepper spray. His eyes locked on Isabelle with pure hatred. "You're nothing," he shouted. "A nobody. You think this is over? People like me own this town." Rivera stepped between them, shielding Isabelle. "James Maxwell, you're under arrest for human trafficking, kidnapping, child endangerment." "My lawyers will have me out by morning," Maxwell sneered. "I don't think so," Isabelle said, finding her voice. She removed the pendant from around her neck. "I recorded everything in your office. Your confession. 87 children, you said. Every word is on here." Maxwell's face drained of color. "And the RFID chips in their teeth?" Rivera added. "Physical evidence that can't be explained away, each one traceable to your dental practice." As Maxwell was led to a waiting police car, a small figure darted through the crowd. Emma Pierce, the girl whose escape had started everything. She ran straight to Isabelle, wrapping her arms around her. "I knew you'd figure it out," Emma said fiercely. "I left you clues in the X-ray. I bit him when he put the thing in my tooth. That's why I ran." Isabelle looked down at the brave child in wonder. "You knew?" Emma nodded solemnly. "My friend Tyler never came back after his special filling. I heard Dr. Maxwell talking about selling us. Nobody believed me." "I believed you," Isabelle said, her voice breaking. "The minute you ran out those doors." As dawn broke over the mansion, the full scope of Maxwell's operation became clear. Federal agents found records of children sold across state lines and internationally. The RFID chips were traced to a manufacturer that specialized in inventory control. Several prominent community members were implicated, including a judge who had dismissed previous complaints against Maxwell. Isabelle sat wrapped in a shock blanket, watching as the children were reunited with parents who had no idea of the fate their children had narrowly escaped. Those whose parents couldn't be located immediately were taken into protective custody, with Isabelle promising to visit them until they were safely home. Agent Rivera sat beside her as paramedics finished examining the last of the children. "You know," he said quietly, "in 15 years with the Bureau, I've never seen anything like what you did tonight." "I was terrified the whole time," Isabelle admitted. "That's what makes it brave." Rivera handed her a cup of hot coffee. "We would never have broken this ring without you. The evidence you gathered, the risks you took." "I couldn't look away," Isabelle said simply. "Once I knew, I couldn't be the person who did nothing." As the morning sun illuminated the scene, police cars, ambulances, FBI agents cataloging evidence, Isabelle watched Mia sleeping peacefully on a gurney, finally safe. In that moment, she understood that some kinds of darkness can only be defeated when ordinary people refuse to be afraid. 6 months after the raid on Maxwell's mansion, Isabelle Thornton sat in a sunlit courtroom, watching as the judge delivered the final sentences in what the media had dubbed the Bright Smile trafficking case. Dr. James Maxwell received multiple life sentences without the possibility of parole. His accomplices, the buyers, the security team, the manufacturers of the RFID chips, all faced substantial prison terms. The evidence Isabelle had gathered proved crucial. Her recordings, the detailed logs she'd kept, and her testimony had withstood the aggressive attacks of high-priced defense attorneys, but most damning of all were the tiny metal objects extracted from the teeth of 43 rescued children, irrefutable proof of a monstrous operation disguised as dental care. After the sentencing, Agent Rivera found Isabelle in the courthouse hallway. "It's really over," she said, still not quite believing it. "Thanks to you," Rivera nodded. "The task force has identified trafficking operations using similar methods in 3 other states. Your case is changing how we investigate these crimes." Isabelle had changed too. The shy hygienist who once avoided eye contact now gave speeches to law enforcement groups about recognizing signs of trafficking. The woman who had once feared confrontation had stared down Maxwell in court, her voice never wavering as she detailed his crimes. "Have you decided about the job offer?" Rivera asked as they walked toward the exit. The FBI had offered Isabelle a civilian consultant position with their human trafficking task force, using her medical knowledge and newfound investigative skills to help identify other victims. "I'm accepting it," she said, "but I have something else to finish first." That something else was the reason she now stood, 1 week later, cutting a ribbon at the entrance to a renovated Victorian house, just outside the city limits. A hand-painted sign above the door read, "Safe Smiles, Pediatric Dental Healing Center." Using a portion of the reward money from Maxwell's case, Isabelle had established a specialized dental clinic for rescued trafficking victims and other traumatized children. Here, with a staff trained in trauma-informed care, children who associated dentistry with terror could receive gentle treatment in an environment designed for healing. Emma Pierce stood beside Isabelle at the opening ceremony, now 11 years old and proudly wearing a junior dental assistant badge. After her rescue, Emma had decided she wanted to become a dentist, a good one, as she put it, to help children like herself. "I couldn't have done it without you," Isabelle told her, as journalists snapped photos of the ribbon cutting. "You were the bravest one of all." Emma shrugged, though her eyes shone with pride. "I just ran away. You came back for us." As the crowd moved inside for the reception, Mia appeared at Isabelle's side, tugging at her hand. Unlike some of the other children who still struggled with nightmares and trust issues, Mia had shown remarkable resilience. Though the RFID chip had been removed from her tooth, she still touched her cheek sometimes, remembering. "Miss Chen is here," Mia whispered. Sarah Chen had become the clinic's office manager after Bright Smile was shut down. Her testimony had been instrumental in mapping the network of Maxwell's accomplices. "Isabelle," Sarah called, weaving through the crowd. "There's a call for you. It's Rivera." In the small office that would be hers 3 days a week, the other 2 reserved for her FBI consulting work, Isabelle took the call. "We found 3 more," Rivera said without preamble. "In Portland. Same MO. Different medical specialty." Isabelle closed her eyes briefly. "How many children?" 17 so far. "We're moving on the clinic tomorrow. I'll be on the first flight out," she promised. When she emerged from the office, the reception was in full swing. Children who had once been merchandise now ran laughing through the colorful waiting room, designed to look like an enchanted forest. Parents who had nearly lost everything exchanged stories of recovery and healing. Dental professionals who had volunteered their services discussed treatment plans with child psychologists. In a quiet corner, Isabelle found Emma showing a younger child how the dental chair worked, demonstrating that it could stop any time the child felt scared, that nothing would happen without permission, that this place was different. "And if you're ever scared," Emma was saying gently, "you just raise your hand like this, and everything stops until you're ready." The younger child, one of the rescued children from Maxwell's operation, nodded solemnly. "Promise?" "I promise," Emma said. "No one here will ever hurt you." Watching them, Isabelle felt the familiar mixture of grief and determination that had become her constant companion. There were more children to find, more networks to dismantle, more predators hiding behind respectable facades. But there was also this, moments of healing, small victories of trust rebuilt, and the unbreakable bonds formed between those who had faced darkness together and emerged into light. "Miss Isabelle," Emma called, waving her over. "Can you show Lily the special X-ray machine, the one that lets her see the pictures right away?" Isabelle smiled and joined them, kneeling to meet Lily's anxious gaze. "The most important thing to remember," she told the child, "is that here, you're never invisible. We see you, we hear you, and you are safe now." In the child's tentative smile, Isabelle found her answer to the question that had haunted her since that first day. Emma ran from the office. Can broken trust ever truly be restored? Not completely, not perfectly, but enough to build something new from the fragments. Enough to create safe spaces where healing could begin. And sometimes that was enough. That's the end of Isabelle's story.